Hi guys, today I'm going to be speaking about diabetes as an informative speech for my Communications 231 speech. This is my mom, Debbie, and my sister, Carly, and they're going to be my audience today. Have you guys ever had a relative or know someone that has had diabetes in your life?
Yep.
You have?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what type they had?
Type 2.
Type 2. Same, that's grandma.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many people around us that have diabetes and we don't even know what they go through because it's kind of a disease that you know people have but you really don't know at the same time. Today I just want to take some time and talk about the disease in itself and kind of what the symptoms are, what the causes are, and what kind of diagnosis you can take to find out you do have it. I hold myself credible because my grandma, your mom, and also our grandma had diabetes. She had type 2. And every time we'd go to dinner or we'd have dinner at her house, I remember she'd have to give herself an insulin shot or prick her finger to check her blood pressure, her blood sugar, and she would know that she needed to have whatever she needed to eat or what she could eat. So I know a little bit of facts, but doing my research, I learned a lot more about what it actually is. The first basic part of it is knowing what different types there are. There are 3 different types that they know of, and there's type 1, type 2, and gestational. Type 1 is when someone's pancreas can't create enough insulin and it creates their blood sugar to be too high. Then they need to give themselves insulin shots to make up for the insulin that their body cannot produce. Insulin is a hormone that controls that, and it's very important for your body to have it because if not, you'll have shortages in different areas and you'll need to have shots or take medicine that replace that. Type 1 normally occurs within children and adolescents, and it's more common for them to have it at type 1 than an adult to have type 1. Moving on to type 2. Type 2 is the most common type of diabetes, and 90% of people that have diabetes have type 2, and the other 10% have type 1. This typically occurs within people that are overweight or physically inactive, and it's more common for people that are overweight to have type 2 diabetes. It tends to happen when somebody's insulin they are not dependent on insulin. So their body creates it, but it's resistant to it. A lot of it has to do with sugar and cholesterol levels, and insulin can keep those levels down, which keeps your body regulated. There's another type called gestational, and that typically, like this picture, it occurs within females that are experiencing pregnancy. Usually it can be controlled through exercise and diet. If the mother of the child does that, it'll regulate it and they won't have to worry about much, but the baby could end up bigger than they're supposed to be because the mother has gestational diabetes. It can be a very fatal disease if you have that while you're pregnant or you're childbearing, and it can honestly be fatal, so it's something to look out for. According to Medical News Today in 2013, it's estimated that 382 million people throughout the world have diabetes, whether it's type 1 or type 2. Now that we are aware of the different types and the major information about diabetes, we can talk about the different symptoms that someone will go through. The second most important part of having diabetes and knowing it is the symptoms that someone will go through. I listed some that you can read. But basically, frequent urination is one of them. So basically, that's realizing that you're going to the bathroom more than you normally do. Disproportionate thirst is where you'll be going to the bathroom not as much as you're drinking. So you'll be going more, but you're not drinking and realizing that you are going more. So you're going and you're not depleting anything you've taken in. So that's a hazard. Another one is intense hunger, and that's you realize you're very, very hungry all the time. Weight gain can also be from the intense hunger that goes off of that, and you can gain excess amount of weight and not even realize how much you're gaining. Another one is weight loss, which can also be off of that. You can have intense hunger but not give into it, and you'll lose that so you'll have excess weight loss. Another one is increased fatigue. There's irritability, which can also go off of your lack of energy, of not eating enough or eating too much or whatever the reason is. You can have blurred vision, your cuts and bruises don't really heal properly quickly enough. I remember that from my grandma. She'd get a cut and it wouldn't heal very quickly, or she'd just bleed for an hour and we wouldn't realize what was wrong, but that was a symptom of diabetes. There's a few other ones that I've listed, but they're all pretty much go off of each other. Now that we have a better understanding of some of the symptoms that there is, we can talk about what pre-diabetes are and some of the causes of diabetes. The third most most important part of having diabetes and knowing that you have it are the causes. Prediabetes are typically found in people that have had type 2, or before they have type 2, that's what they get. In order to get type 1, your beta cells in your pancreas start to destruct themselves. So it's basically destroying all the cells in your pancreas, and that's where insulin comes in. In order to get type 2, that means that someone's unable to make enough insulin, and that's where insulin comes in also. Genetics can be a cause for type 2, and I had wrote some of that there. And according to Medical News Today, type 1 diabetes is nowhere near as common as type 2. Like I said earlier, 90% and 10%. Also stated by Medical News Today, there's a vast majority of patients with type 2 diabetes have initially had prediabetes. So prediabetes comes before type 2. There are microvascular and macrovascular complications that come along with diabetes, and some of the micro ones are I can't even pronounce it. Retinopathy, which is a disease of the eye, neuropathy, which is a disease of your kidneys, or neuropathy, which is a disease of your nerves. And those are more common, but they're small blood cells, like they affect your small blood vessels.
I don't know if you know that Grandma had that neuropathy. That's
Did
why
she?
the
Okay.
amputation.
Okay. There are also macrovascular, which can affect larger blood vessels, and those can be heart attacks, strokes, or even arterial diseases, which can affect your heart. And they're more severe and can cause like fatality to people. Now that we have talked about some of the causes and complications, we can talk about the different diagnoses. Some that I have researched are like blood tests. You can go through basic blood tests. You can go through urine tests. You can also, there's some that do glucose, and then it can be oral, or they can also be like shots that you find out. So some of those that I found were the A1C test. There's another one that's called the FPG test, which stands for fasting plasma glucose. And there's another OGTT test, which is the oral glucose tolerance test. And those can all determine if you have diabetes or how severe they are. Now that we've basically covered all the basics of it, let's review. You have a better understanding of what diabetes are and how it can affect someone's life now. And there are 3 different types that we went over, type 1, type 2, and gestational. Once you know those, you can realize how hard it could be for someone to survive with diabetes, or how, like, the complications they go through. I hope that you guys can take some of this information and use it in a useful place in the future, and thank you guys for listening. Do you have any questions?
No.
Thank you.
That's good.
Don't know if it even